Hello, welcome to one of 3 videos in this little mini series we're doing on hybrid, nonprofit, and for-profit models. So we've done 2 other videos. They are on where a nonprofit owns a for-profit and also where a nonprofit and a for-profit run alongside of each other and work together, but are not legally tied together other than working together. This video, we're going to talk about fiscal sponsorship. Now, I have another video on fiscal sponsorship in our nonprofit playlist that is going to go into further depth about fiscal sponsorship. This video is just going to tell you how it works in the context of that hybrid model idea. We get a lot of clients that come to us and they want to have hybrid, nonprofit, for-profit models, both for achieving the charitable purpose, taking advantage of the tax benefits of the exempt organization, but also sometimes helping to fund and sustain the nonprofit organization from the for-profit. So these 3 videos are all really designed to describe these different structures that can help facilitate some of these different ways of operating with both. Now, a fiscal sponsorship is actually where you, as an individual or even a for-profit company, can benefit from the nonprofit tax exemption of an existing nonprofit organization. How does that work? Well, I'm going to tell you. So what happens is you basically contact the nonprofit organization, and there are some nonprofit organizations that are specifically designed to be fiscal sponsors. Probably not as applicable for what we're talking about here, because a lot of the time these hybrid models involve where you have your own for-profit and you have your own nonprofit and you want them to work together more officially. One way of doing that, fiscal sponsorship, will allow you to take the nonprofit, and the nonprofit accepts all the donations, right? All the money comes into the nonprofit organization, and then it fiscally sponsors the for-profit down here and distributes that money to that for-profit for specifically a charitable program. So for instance, let's say the for-profit company wants to, let's say, subsidize rates for what it already does. Let's say the for-profit is an outdoor adventure company, takes you on trips, see waterfalls and go kayaking and whatever. And they want to subsidize their rates for those trips for underserved youth, for instance. Well, one way of doing that is if there's an organization that you have that works with underserved youth, you could accept donations and then under a fiscal sponsor, give those funds to the for-profit for subsidizing those rates for the underserved youth. And that works. It's totally normal, totally allowed. A really important thing to pay attention to, however, is that with fiscal sponsorship, that for-profit, when it receives that money from the nonprofit, that's taxable revenue. It's going to be taxed just like any other revenue that the for-profit would bring in, but the important thing to highlight is that there will be taxes. There's no taxes at the for-profit or the nonprofit. Sorry, the nonprofit, that's what its purpose is. It accepts donations, it uses that money, there's no taxes. The nonprofit would need to give a donation receipt when it receives those donations on behalf of a fiscal sponsorship. And then the fiscal sponsor, the nonprofit, gives that money to the fiscal sponsee. Kind of silly terms, but the sponsee is the one that would probably have a tax basis for that revenue that it has accepted to run that charitable program. But a lot of the times in these scenarios where you want to do these hybrid models, the taxes aren't important, the end goal is, and in this instance, subsidizing the rates for the underserved youth, super important, probably going to be worth it for the taxes to get that done. So again, this is one of 3 different videos we've done on how to have hybrid models where for-profits and nonprofits work together, sometimes more formally than others, sometimes less so. This one's about fiscal sponsorship. Thanks for tuning in.